Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Mariane Pinkston. Join Dr. Pinkston today as she teaches you how an integrative approach to health, combining holistic and contemporary medical information, can lead you to the better life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mariane Pinkston.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. I am Dr. Pinkston, and I come every third or fourth week of the month, and I get the significant pleasure of having Ray Solano on my show that is a great sponsor of PD Labs and takes very, very good care of me otherwise. We have a lot of great things going on that we share every couple of weeks with you. And so Ray is a compounding pharmacist with PD Labs up in Cedar Park, Texas, which is near Austin and just outside. And welcome in, Ray. It's good to see you again.
Well, it's great to be on your show again.
I am always happy to have you on. You're such a fantastic wealth of knowledge, and you always bring us something wonderful. And I think right now, our topic today is how everybody, at least here in the San Antonio, Austin, South Texas area, is drowning in oak pollen. It's probably the worst oak pollen season I think that we have seen in ever, maybe. I think it was because those two really, that week of really huge freezes last year, we had, significant winter weather, and it's cooked us this time. So how's everything up in Austin?
Well, it's exactly the same. I'm just trying to understand. I don't remember it being so bad either. I guess the trees are they're realizing that they got a little stressed over the winter, right?
Right.
And so now they are ready to go.
They are ready to go.
That's
absolutely.
Right.
And
so I think we could probably use a little bit of that understanding as we take care of our bodies. What do you think?
Absolutely. Well, I think everybody thinks of allergies as, well, I'll just take an antihistamine and get through it. But I don't think they realize that there's a lot more to allergies and a lot more things that they can do to help themselves. Honestly, I think most people, and this has taken me some time to understand, but most people don't realize allergies is really kind of an autoimmune illness.
Well, it's a symptom of other conditions. Some people, you probably know a few of them, have no allergies at all this time of year. They're just looking around going, what is everybody...
What's wrong with all of you?
So they almost feel left out. But the reason why is there was a study out of the NIH, the National Institute of Health, 2 years ago with over 1,800 people. And it said that the microbiome, the good bacteria in the stomach, is a direct link to the people's allergy reaction. So the patients that had a lack of diversity of good bacteria in their gut, the lack of diversity in the microbiome, had a direct link to an increased amount of allergies, to environmental allergies, and also to nut allergies as well.
Right.
So, it doesn't start with the nose. It doesn't start with the lack of Benadryl or any of the other antihistamines. It's a lack of good gut health.
Yeah, it's where you were born with a Benadryl deficiency. No, that's not what it is. No. And the reason that you bring up gut and the reason I bring up autoimmune is that's where the connection is. Because any time that we have spent so much time, I think you and I, talking about gut, but I don't know that we've ever really defined it. In fact, I need to have an entire show just based on gut issues. But the intestine is responsible for the majority of work that your immune system does, good or bad, honestly. And it's also responsible for your brain chemistry and other things. And so at the heart of almost every disease that I can think of, the intestine, gut, is what's involved. Do you agree?
Well, it's exactly right. If you string them out, they're quite a long pathway in your body, and it has a tremendous resource for absorbing nutrients and a blood flow. So it's so critical to realize that juncture and what is those junctions in your body have to be, make sure they're not inflamed. So it's what the foods that you take and you eat have to all be supportive of non-inflammatory foods. So that the standard American diet right now is based on inflammatory foods or inflammatory, fed inflammatory foods. So if you have a huge amount of omega-6s, right?
Right.
Versus omega-3s, which were anti-inflammatory, you're going to have an inflamed body.
Right.
And so when you have an inflamed body and it's very difficult to keep an inflamed body going, you get tired.
Right.
So we get tired, allergenic patients walking around. And so, you know what? Let's take some antihistamines and let's get a little bit sleepier. But,
True, right? Oh, yeah, I see that all the time.
So is this crazy or what?
Mm-hmm, absolutely, and you're just kind of throwing gas on a fire with that. And the gut though is supposed to be a barrier, so it's supposed to not allow food particles and toxins and the LPS, one of the toxins that bad bacteria will overproduce and whatnot. It's not supposed to allow that into our bloodstream. When that gut barrier breaks down, all of those particles then are able to access our bloodstream and our lymph system. And that's where our immune system says, well, wait a minute, that doesn't belong here. It sees that little gluten particle there and says that does not belong here, starts to attack it. And then that is where then after all this it creates inflammation. After all this inflammation builds up, then the body starts to turn on itself and it'll attack itself. And then you bring in histamine issues on top of that, and then there you go. Oak is not your best friend at that point.
That's right. So it's to get that balance is so important. So you have to have good gut health, good digestive health. And so that's what we should be doing with every meal, is to really look at that, how we can support it. And sometimes we like protein shakes that have anti-inflammatory compounds in it.
Right.
That's why we designed an OptiMeal shake with our name on it, because it has quercetin, rutin, other things that are, as we're drinking it, it's healing those junctions in our GI tract.
Right.
So it's important to put those two together. So everything you're taking on a daily basis, is it helping or is it healing you?
Absolutely.
Right?
That's why you should think every time you put something in your mouth, whether it's a vitamin, a medicine, a food, a drink, you really should think about that. Is this something that is going to help me, or is it something that's going to further the damage? But, ooh, it tastes so good, right?
It does.
I battle that every day with patients.
Every day.
Every day. And I battle it with myself, too. I mean, I'm not immune to any of those types of issues where, birthday, like this weekend with Easter, we had all the chocolates and the candies. And is the Super Bowl of sugar over with, Ray? Was Easter the last one?
It really is. But, I had my granddaughter wake up first thing on Easter morning, and somehow she had one of those rings with a piece of candy on it. You ever see one of those?
Yes.
And I went, oh my God. We have a long ways to go.
I know.
We have a long way to go. Because
Exactly.
It's Super Bowl of sugar is not over yet.
No. It
That's
continues.
a dentist's dream, by the way. Did you know that?
It's what? A dentist's
They call
dream.
those the dentist's dream. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is certainly.
Because those kids won't have any front teeth in about 5 years.
Bless their hearts, seriously. Well, you know what? Something interesting about oak pollen, too, because you can actually induce an environmental reaction. So there are people who are not allergic within their bodies to oak pollen, but you should see the molecule. It's huge, and it has lots of spikes on it. So when people see a lot of the pictures of COVID, and that's kind of what it looks like, it just has a ton of spikes on it, a very large molecule. So when our oak count is like I think today is probably like 60,000 or more, there's so much of that particle in the air with all those spikes, you just breathe enough of that in, it's going to induce, an inflammatory reaction in people who aren't even allergic. So there's so many people who are, very, very sick and having, lots of itchy, watery eyes, runny nose, and just, tired, feeling miserable because of all this histamine in the body. So what do we do about that? I know you have a solution, something I've tried before too.
Well, I think that the granddaddy of all allergies is cedar. And everything else is
cedar,
relatively minor league compared to that. So if you can, what you use to survive cedar is what I like to be able to use. We put together a product called HistaShield. It's a unique combination of botanicals that stop the histamine from being released from the cells, so your body doesn't react. When a body releases histamine, it destroys cells, and it has this inflammatory reaction. It breaks up cells. That's why you have a lot of watery discharge. So you stop that cycle from occurring. So you have we have 9 different nutrients in there that stop that cycle. Huge amounts of N-acetylcysteine, quercetin, zinc, vitamin C, and D, all together in a capsule.
Yeah.
So you take 4 of those twice a day. Okay, that's what we start. And then you can do acetylglutathione. And acetylglutathione, in addition to that, because that's slow, then it strengthens the immune system. And acts like an antihistamine at the same time.
Right.
So it stops the body from overreacting to those allergens. So it ignores them. So you're telling your body it's not going to harm you. Don't overreact
right.
to it.
So it gets to the root of the problem. And all of those things that you just mentioned are fantastic for building in your immune system and protecting you against viruses such as coronavirus or COVID-19. So that's
right.
great, right? So it really is a great immune system build for autoimmune patients, for allergenic patients, for antiviral, good gut health. I mean, this really covers a lot of ground. It's a very, very good product. And
and we sell out of it, and patients call us all the time and say, I can't believe that really worked. And I go,
right?
yeah, it does work. And then also people are getting bronchial, they're feeling a little bit pressure breathing. N-acetylcysteine, NAC, is such a good product. It's as a prescription drug when it's in a liquid form. I don't know if your listeners know about it.
I did not.
So it's to the point it's on that sidelines that the government almost feels that it should be a prescription drug.
Wow.
So you can take it without a prescription.
Yes.
And the important thing is to take enough of it in a daily basis.
Right.
And it ends up being a decongestant for the lungs.
Right.
So you do a combination of that. You say, well, I'm taking a lot of pills. Seems to be unusual. You know what? Look at them as foods. And I don't think anybody would have problem eating a bag of M&Ms.
Right.
So... Well, just take a bag of these HistoShield, put some acetylglutathione on it, put some NAC, shake up the bag, right?
Right.
And then just take them and think that they're all candy. How's that?
Exactly. That's so true. Yeah, add it to your bowl of cereal of vitamins every day, and I don't know, right? We've got to, I think, open up people's eyes a little bit to.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think I've probably had now in the past year, half of my shows are just based on inflammation and gut health. And so at one point, I'm hoping that, between me or you and me or you and I can get it across to, people just how important this is. And so when you have gut problems, then let's go back to, treating the gut. How long does it take somebody to improve their gut health? I think we live in a world of instant gratification where going to take something and be better, in 5 minutes. So how long does it take for people to reestablish gut health?
I think it takes 3 days. I think you can tell from the scale that if you continuing being able to retain water,
right,
you're inflamed.
Right.
And it probably, I think it usually takes to me about 3 days to quiet down the inflammation. For children, for autistic children, there was a study that was done that showed that the inflammation, if the children are sensitive to gluten allergies and gluten, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for the stomach to calm down, but the brain takes 3 months for it to slow down the inflammation. So you can realize that some of these substances can be extremely irritable for a lot of these children and also adults too. So many times people that are suffering from these allergies, they get the brain fog and the head fog for months afterwards. And so it's really important to realize these are all connected.
Well, so with people that is really want to drive this point home. So what you're saying is that this weekend, with all the Easter egg hunts and the candy that everybody had and the big meals and desserts and everything, for up to 3 months, that could affect them in energy and brain fog and, inflammation for up to 3 months, right?
Unfortunately, it is correct. And right now, we have flu season. We have still people that are coming down with different variances of COVID.
Right.
So, you know what? I tell people just start today.
Right.
Just
and
look at all the foods you put into your body for this week, and try to restore back to those normal, healthy habits.
Well, we can take a lot of supplements and do a lot of things externally like that, but really it starts with what's on your plate and what you put in your mouth and in your body.
And just drink water this week.
Right.
You hydrate with the proper amount of electrolytes.
Absolutely.
Every meal. And guess what? Those toxins will come out.
They'll flush. They'll flush. But you really have to take something like this on and get out of that instant gratification world and take something like this on, work at healing your body and improving this over time. And it takes sometimes, I tell patients sometimes it can take 6 months to a year to turn around a body that is inflamed and sick and overweight. And this is not something that will happen overnight, but it is so worth it. Something I did in the past. And it is so worth it when you get your body back in your hands and under your control. It's absolutely amazing. So we're going to take a break here in just a second. I want to give everybody a little bit of information and where you can find information on finding Ray and is it Optimeal? I take it.
That's right. Optimeal.
I drink it every day. I don't even know what to call it. So the Optimeal, which is the protein shake, and then the HistaShield and the glutathione and all these other great things that Ray has. So pdlabsrx.com. And you can also go to my site. So if you want to find our previous discussions over this last year, we just had our year anniversary this last week.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So if you want to find all the other shows, you can go to drpbetterlife.com. And there are all the links, iTunes and Google Play, Spotify, any platform that you want to find us on, YouTube, where you can watch us. And then, of course, I'm on San Antonio Radio every Sunday at 4 here at 9:30, The Answer. So we will take a short break and come back on the other side and talk a little bit more about how to get through this allergy season in South Texas or wherever you are. And we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Ray Solano with your Healthy Choices Minute, sponsored by Prescription Dispensing Labs. New research has concluded that implementing dietary changes could prevent gut inflammatory processes involved in some chronic diseases. Modulation of your gut microbes through diets enriched with vegetables, legumes, grains, nuts, and a higher intake of plant over animal foods has a potential to prevent intestinal inflammatory conditions at the core of many chronic diseases. In short, the foods we eat in our dietary patterns have a major influence on our immune system that can cause many conditions we are suffering from today. Solution: try our OptiMeal shake. Our team has developed the best tasting, healthiest shake you've ever experienced to control blood sugar and to improve your gut. Start your day today with a healthy choice. Call us today at 888-909-0110 for a free sample of the OptiMeal shake. 888-909-0110. Remember, you have a choice in healthcare.
Welcome back. I am Dr. Mariane Pinkston, and I am here with Ray Solano, my favorite person in the whole world. Absolutely, and I do not lie. Ray is a compounding pharmacist up in Cedar Park, close to Austin. I always wanted to say Austin, but you guys are in Cedar Park, but it's close to Austin. And a compounding pharmacist who is here with me today talking about the allergens and histamine and our gut health. But we have a little extra piece we wanted to talk about this morning. The great Jim LaValle, who has written several books and has basically taught me everything I know about metabolic health and inflammation, wrote a book, what you said about 8 years ago, Ray?
8 years ago.
Right, and The Blood That Never Lies. This would be a great resource for people to know and understand what we are trying to do when we are testing for certain issues and doing blood testing. I think most doctors do not test for all the things that Jim recommends, and I also know that many doctors don't recommend a lot of the nutritionals and things that he recommends. Tell us a little bit about this book that you know.
The important thing is, as the book says, your blood tells it all.
Right.
And the important thing is, how do you take the information that your blood gives you and be able to understand the trends? Unfortunately, the way the standard of care is today, there's a list of tests that are approved by your insurance that they think it will keep you to determine whether you require, I guess, intervention to therapy, that you're going to have you have a serious illness that it could be fatal. Okay, sometimes it's not really designed to uncover chronic conditions.
Right.
Okay. So since we have an inadequate test, you try to still understand, okay, with what you've got, what can you understand the trends? So unfortunately, there's this normal state. Okay, so everybody goes to your practitioner other than yourself, or traditional allopathic practitioners, that you've got 5 minutes to spend with everybody.
Right.
Here's a lab test. You got 10 minutes to be able to have a discussion as a follow-up. Everything's in a normal range, because if it's not in a normal range, that's the one that's not highlighted. And that means that everything's fine.
Right.
Unfortunately, 2 years later, you go, oh my goodness, now all of a sudden this person's pre-diabetic.
Right.
Well, did they overnight become pre-diabetic? No, the answer is that they're trending high.
Yeah.
And when their range is huge range. It's not a very narrow index. It's a
Right.
huge number.
Right.
So when you're 90 percentile in all these different ranges, we see that you're trending high. Now, when you have an artificial intelligence software, when you have 4 or 5 of these that are in the high range or the low range, then they are lead to certain chronic conditions that'll manifest itself 5 to 10 years from now.
Which
so
we can see.
in a sense, you have a blueprint
Right.
for where your body is going 10 years from now.
Right.
And that's where
And we can
Jim has
see it
developed
now.
a software,
Yes, the Metabolic Code. So,
that Metabolic Code.
and which everybody has access to if they desire, and that's
That's
why
right.
and I'll give all that information in a minute. But what you said about labs is very, very important. Reference ranges. There was a suit against a lot of these labs. I don't know how long ago. It was quite some time, based on their reference ranges being, incomplete. And so what they decided to do was make their reference ranges population averages. They're not true scientifically based reference ranges. So when I get my lab report back on you, the reference range, like you said, it's all over the place, and it is, it's the same for an 80-year-old man and a 10-year-old girl, and none of that makes sense at all. And so the numbers are skewed because everybody is so abnormal now. The numbers are skewed to make that abnormality, correct and true to normal. And so the numbers are all over the place. And I have patients, I'll give them their labs and it'll say high or low, and they go home research and say, Dr. Pinkston didn't talk about that with me. And I'm like, no, it's in the scientific range. But then I'll go over something that had no high or low to it, and I'll be all over it as abnormal. And they're like, well, it says it's in the range. I said, no, again, that is a population average. So it's very important that you have somebody well-trained to look at those averages and know what the true reference ranges are. And so with that, we'll have some information. I will put the book on my website where you can link it. It'll be a link to Amazon or where Square One Publishing, I think is what you said, and we'll have a link there for you to purchase. And then also with Metabolic Code, we've got about 2 minutes left, but tell us how they can get into the Metabolic Code.
Well, it's very simple. We have our practitioners. We work with you as well to be able to go through the nutritional side with a survey. It's a very simple, make an appointment, give us a call at 512-219-0724. We'll give you, it's a number of questions, 5 to 10 minutes to fill out a questionnaire. We can set up on lab tests that we can be able to get your data, plug it into the software, go through the consultation and meet with you in your office. And then the patient can get an enormous 1-2 profile
Right.
on how they can reverse these chronic conditions.
Absolutely.
You know what? It works. I've done it
does.
myself, and you've done it yourself for your patients, and it's amazing what happens when you really try to work in concert with your body.
Absolutely. And just no better time than the present to start now.
That's right.
And truly, a year from
That's
now,
when spring starts, right?
A year from now, we
Regeneration.
could have you turned around and looking better. So you can. He gave the phone number, which will be on my website. So drpbetterlife.com. You can find all the information, all the podcasts, and our past shows. But you can also find Ray at pdlabsrx.com. So it's the P prescription dispensing laboratory. So pdlabsrx.com. And you can find out how to reach them and get into the Metabolic Code. So you know what? We did it again, Ray. We've got another one wrapped
looking
up.
forward to it.
So
You know what I tell everybody? Take responsibility
Yes.
for your life.
yes.
And especially your health, and you can start today.
Start today. So, Ray, awesome. As always, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Have a
pleasure.
fantastic week. We'll see you again in a couple weeks.
All right, take care.
All right.